I've had incredibly talented people in the sales profession say, well, I want out, even though they're doing great in their money, they're doing great, in every other respect, but they just say, I can't handle this. I can't handle the tyranny of the inboxes.
Everything leads to growth with the National Association of Sales Professionals. The Leads to Growth podcast with the National Association of Sales Professionals provides in-depth discussions, sharing the best sales, prospecting, influence, and communication skills, as well as sales training techniques to take your professional sales career to the next level.
All right. Welcome back to another Leads to Growth podcast with NASP. We have got one amazing half of a dynamic duo with us here today. Damir, great to see you, sir.
What's up? How you doing, man?
Doing very well. Damir is joining us from the wonderful Colombia. And his wonderful wife, Carrie, is not here to join us today, but he does have another half, which is just as awesome as he. And this dynamic duo, let me just kind of fill you in with who they are before we get rolling here. Damir and Carrie Bentley are the husband and wife team around Life Hack Bootcamp. LifeHackBootcamp.com, the productivity and lifestyle design company for high-performing individuals who want to bring sanity back in their lives. I don't know who doesn't want that, Damir. They're known for their no BS, no excuse coaching style and a passion for creating huge transformation in their clients' lives. They're also known for pushing the boundaries of lifestyle design, traveling around the world, obviously, and experimenting with different ways of living. This is what life is all about, right? They're members of the Forbes Coaching Council, the Influence Top 25 Influencer. Their work has been featured in Forbes, Inc., Entrepreneur, Bloomberg, Wall Street Journal, Huffington Post, and on podcasts like the Forbes 30 Under 30, strong, Damir. Amy Portfield's Online Marketing Made Easy, The One Thing, just had Jeff on recently. Awesome, big fan of that. And Don't Keep Your Day Job. I'm going to have to find out more about that one. Carrie and Damir live a nomadic lifestyle, living up to 3 months at a time in cities all around the globe. And from what I've heard, they've been planting down in Colombia for a little while and enjoying themselves. So welcome to the Leads to Growth podcast, Damir.
Thanks, man. That's an incredible intro. I don't read that much myself. And so to sit here and hear it go out, it's impressive. It makes me feel good about myself.
Awesome, man. Awesome. And that is a beautiful thing to do. Far too often, we don't take the time to look back at our accomplishments, right? We only look back at things and we think all these little things that we did wrong, right? It's nice to hear the things that we did right. I always tell people, go check out your Facebook timeline if you forget how awesome you are.
I love that. That's great.
So we're here today to talk about just an amazing concept, something I think I need to hear as much as our audience needs to hear, and that's the failure of always-on communication. Damir, I suffer from this. I won't lie. I'm the guy that says, go ahead and text me, email me, Skype me, WhatsApp me, ping me at any time, and I'll go ahead and get back to you. I have been living this and realizing that it's been stealing a lot of my time. And so before we get rolling on this, because this is a hot topic, I'm really, really excited about this. You got to tell me a little bit about how you became the productivity experts.
Yeah, and that's an interesting one. I always joke when people say, how did you become a productivity expert? I say, well, my great-grandfather was a productivity expert, and my grandfather was a there's no schooling for it. There's no traditional path for it. The short version is my wife and I, we're living the opposite of the work smarter, not harder life. I like to say, instead of the 9-to-5ers, we were the 5-to-9ers. We would go in at 5 a.m. and we would stay until 9 p.m. And we lived in New York, which, as those of you who are familiar with New York know, there's a celebration of that type of punishing work culture. I work more than you. Oh, I'm busier than you. Just very much basically, pinning that to your shoulder as if it's some kind of amazing award that you get to show off. Well, I worked 80 hours a week last week. Oh, well, that's nothing. I worked 100 hours, right? And we were very much steeped in that culture. Let's just, just push through our careers through brute force, right? And the problem is that our stomachs basically exploded. I mean, that's not really literally what happened, but within 2 weeks of each other, we both got a diagnosis that said, hey, you have stress-related illnesses that you either need to start managing aggressively with rest, sleep, stress abatement, or you're going to face early death, walking around with a colostomy bag for the rest of your life. I mean, really grave consequences. And so the problem was our mind still wanted to go. We weren't over by a long shot, but our body was like kaput, And so for us, that became almost like a shared journey with me and my wife, where we really had to dig in and figure out, how can we work smarter, not harder? Side note, I became minorly famous on Wall Street for having, within 2 months of that moment, basically gone from working 80 hours a week to 8 hours a week by outsourcing my entire job to 3 guys in India, which, by the way, was not entirely legal. I was not according to company policy, but really goes to show like how much you can do when you really get to the point where you think you know it all. You think this is the only way you can do it, and then within 2 months, my whole reality had been restitched together in a completely different way. Wow. And so for me, that was such a profound moment. And I looked at my wife and we were like, well, what else could we do? And the next 5 years became what else could we do? Okay, if we work smarter, if we work more intelligently, what else could we do? And we followed that sort of like, hey, let's work with leverage. Let's use the 80-20 rule. Let's use life hacking, and let's use new technology. What else can we do? What else can we do? And now we followed that to, a $1 million plus, business where we work 30 hours a week and we're traveling all over the world. And a lot of people are saying, well, how did you do it? And the truth is, through the most boring mechanism humanly possible, which is productivity. And I just want to say this before we get started. I could not care less about productivity. Right? If you want me to be the person who just geeks out and says, oh yeah, let's get into all the different little tech tools, I'm not your guy, right? What I love about productivity is that it just so happens to be the single most impactful way for you to create the life that you want to live every single day, is to sit down at your computer, have the right habits, have the right mindsets, have the right technologies, not too much, not too little, just right amount of technology so that you can really unlock your full potential. So that's what I'm stoked about. I'm stoked about people unlocking their potential and creating the life they want to live, not necessarily like the newest productivity app.
Absolutely. I love that. It's the means to not the it's the end, not the means, so to speak, right? It's the outcome that we're seeking, and this is just the leverage to achieve it. So
I couldn't agree with that more.
Awesome. So I know so many people out there who are on the latest book, always sending me this book, that book. They're on top of it. They're like giving me every growth hack that was ever invented. They're telling me ways I could do it. Yet they're not getting anything done in their life. They have all these hacks. They know all this information that they're not doing anything. What's the disconnect here between all this knowledge and the execution?
They got stupid feet.
Stupid feet.
They got stupid feet. They got a smart brain and stupid feet is really what's happening. And here's what that means. It means every single piece and shred of information has been shoved into their brain, but they haven't moved any of that into integration, action, and truly deep habitual knowledge. And so that's what I call, that's symbolized by the feet, right? And here's what I mean. When you have something down cold, when you do it every single day and it is muscle knowledge, it's inside of you, then even when your brain is saying, I don't want to do it, you somehow find yourself going to the gym. Your feet are walking, even though your brain's like, I don't want to go to the gym, and yet your feet are taking you to the gym. That's smart feet, right? Mm-hmm. And it's the same in work. When you've got smart feet in work, you can say, I don't want to do this project. And all of a sudden you're there doing the project and you're popping it open, you're cracking it open, you're getting started with it. That's smart feet. And so, I'll just say a little bit of an extra, I got a little bit of a soapbox to jump on there. We've got this really, I think, destructive vein going through productivity right now. And it sounds something like this. The average CEO reads 52 books a year. So what's the problem with you? Why are you so behind? And first of all, I teach a lot of CEOs, Christopher, and they don't read 52 books a year. So I don't know which CEOs you're talking about, not the ones that I'm training, right? The second thing, though, is that when you're reading that much, you're getting so much contradictory ideas and information that it actually creates mental fog. So this is a controversial statement. I read 5 books a year, and I pick them very, very carefully, and I read them each 3 times. 5 books a year, 3 times. If you really know, if you triangulate and ask the people you respect and you've thought very hard about it, and you know, hey, 5 people that I love have recommended this book, and I've read the synopsis and I've read the summary, and it feels like it's absolutely the right thing for me. And now I'm going to make that investment to read it 3 times and really go through it. First time for pleasure, second time for notes, and then I put it away for 2 to 4 weeks and come back and read it one more time for long-term retention. So I know that's not really what we're here to talk about, but it really goes to the essence of what you were asking, which is this tendency for us to really hyper overload and hyper consume information. And then we've got this super smart brain and really dumb feet.
I love that. I love that beautiful, simple term of dumb feet. Those habits that we get into, the patterns, right? The automated patterns that are created in our lives are just, they're amazing and they're beautiful. And far too often, I believe that we get caught in that identity of, this is who I am. This is just who I am. Yeah, but you can hustle like that. You can get all that stuff done. This is just who I am. What would you say to somebody out there that says, yeah, but you just have that in you. Look at what you did in New York, that's just who you are. I'm just not that way.
I mean, so here's the funny thing. I had to work hard because I'm so distracted. I was really, if you think I'm the kind of person who organizes my sock drawer for fun in the morning, you are crazy, right? I'm the kind of person who likes to say things like, I'm creative. I don't like to do the detail work, right? That's the kind of sentence that would come out of my mouth, right? Like, other people do the organizational work. I don't do that stuff. That's what I've said in the past, right? And so, for me, what I had to accept about myself is that, yeah, I am different. Right? My brain doesn't work the same way as other people's, but that doesn't mean I need organization less. It actually means I need it way more.
I'm the same way. I feel like it's like almost like setting up a fence. I feel like I want to run wild and free, right? And as long as I've got that fence proactively set up, I can do it. But when I don't set that fence up, the budgeting, the parameters, all those different things, then I end up running a little too wild and getting out of the corrals.
The dog who runs, we had a dog when we were a kid, and this dog loved us. She loved us, but she would also just run away. Like in a second, if you came by our house and you took this dog, she would just go and live with that new family for the rest of her life and just never remember us again. She just had no discipline, no loyalty. And that's me, the dog who will just, I'll run away on the internet and never come back.
I love it. All right, Damir. So let's talk about what we came here to talk about. We could go all day on this. I love it. Getting in the psychology of the habits and patterns is just a whole nother world for me. I dig that stuff. So, but let's talk about this. I need this. And so most of us are out there, as you talked about, it's been trained in us, right? Look, where are you? I sent you an email at 10 o'clock on Saturday night. Why haven't you responded yet? It becomes ingrained in us that we need to be always responding at every second, whenever it happens, whenever it comes in, we need to be on those things. And when you think about it in forward thinking, when you think about it right now, it makes sense. Okay, oh yeah, great. I can be more productive. Why wouldn't I respond to everything as it comes in?
Yeah.
But we're learning that that's not the case. So tell me more about this.
It's easy to tell somebody that you shouldn't do that. But their reality in that moment is, this is what my boss expects. This is what my client expects, right? Especially for my clients who are in sales, who are in recruiting, who are in IT. For those 3 industries and industries that are like it, sales, recruiting, and IT, there's an expectation that it's just like, hey man, you just got to pick up that phone. I don't care where you're at, what you're doing, you got to pick up that phone. And so it's very easy for me to get clients who are very much in a victimized position with regards to email and communication, where they're like, yeah, I hate it. Yes, it's not productive. Yes, there's a million ways that we could design it better. But Damir, I don't have a choice. I'm just stuck here, right? And that's such a regressive, sort of trapped place to be.
Absolutely.
Because they feel like they know it's a bad place to be, and yet at the same time, they don't feel like they have a choice. They don't see a pathway out, and that's terrible. And I actually, even though it's terrible for them, I sort of lick my chops a little bit when somebody comes in like that with me, because I know that I can actually help them get out of here, and it makes me feel really good, right? And this is what we call, just, you can put this all under the header of the failure of always on communication, right? We've got this idea of like, you just have to be always on, right? Damir, always on. If I call you, if I email you, you've got to be on. And the problem with this, if you really think about it, is that this is a race to the bottom. right? It's like, well, your coworker's answering emails within 30 minutes. Well, now you've got to do it within 25. And then it just becomes this thing where it's like, okay, well now my wife, when she was back in brand management, her very final job before she said, I'm out of here, there was an email that went around that was so indicative of the values of the culture, where everybody was firing around emails at 11 o'clock at night. And the boss came in, and instead of saying, guys, I'm so sorry that we have to be working this late, but I'm proud of you guys for doing this. And I promise you, we won't have to do this again very soon, right? Instead, he was like, look at all you up at 11 o'clock. I'm so proud of you guys. I'm so proud of my team. That was such a snapshot right there, right? That was such a snapshot of how we've come to, and this is sort of a phrase that I'll introduce here, is we've come to substitute busyness for productivity, right? Especially in sales, IT, and recruiting. Busyness, but also a whole other raft of teams. But just to use that as an excuse or sort of as an example, we've come to really say, hey, you see that guy over there who's always on the chat boxes, always responding? That's a great employee. That's one of my best people. They're up all hours, right? And I've even felt it too, where I respond to somebody, or I'm just thinking about something, so I fire it off to them, and they fire it right back to me. And there's that temporary rush as a boss where it's like, oh, they got back to me. And I really have to, as a productivity coach and as somebody who really focuses on lifestyle design, not just for me and my clients, but also for my employees, I really have to be like, actually flip it and be like, why did you just respond to this email? It's Sunday at 2:00. Why are you responding to this email? Right? I sent it because this was the right time for me to send it. So I'm okay with sending it, but why are you responding to it? Right? And have a conversation right there. Anyways, so just sort of backing up and saying, this is the sort of header that we're in. We're substituting busyness for productivity, right? I mean, would you agree that that's sort of where we're at?
Absolutely. And I love what you just said there too, because it's about the intent, right? Did she respond to the email because she felt the obligation? Did she felt like that, look, responding on emails on Sunday is what's something demanded to me by my boss? Or did she respond to the email on Sunday because that's a certain time that she designated for the weekend to go in there and respond to emails?
Or even worse, is she getting a compulsive relationship to her inbox?
Yes, this is a huge.
It has nothing to do with me and nothing to do with her job or her role. She's got her phone in her hand. Her inbox for the company is there showing up, and she's just getting a compulsive thing. I need my people to be rested when they come in. And when they didn't really, I think about rest as a bubble. So their Saturday and Sunday is like a very gentle bubble that is inflating. And just one work email is enough to pop that bubble, and they have to start all over, which means by the end of the weekend, they never really got to this big, giant, fluffy rest that they need to get to come back in and really be ready. They think they did, but they had all these little bubbles bursting that tranquility, bursting that rest. And so they come in on they come in on Monday, and they're in a place where they're aggravated, tired, snippy. What's wrong with you?
Right.
But they've been in this place where they haven't really allowed themselves to get into deep rest.
It's almost like when you go on vacation, when you go somewhere new and you're there for a day or so or 2 days, and you're like, yeah, I don't know really, I was just in and out. I didn't really get to feel it, but you're there a few days and you're like, I kind of felt like I was there. You're able to kind of let go of, you're not thinking about the day you have to leave. You're just kind of let go, and you're able to escape and really be free in that place. If you're going and checking your emails, if you're constantly looking at the next, you're not going to be able to really let go and relax.
I think about email a lot like detoxing. For me, I know for sure that I've gotten email out of my system when I have a minor freak out on a vacation. It comes around the 3 to 4 day mark. The first 2 days, I'm just having fun. I'm so happy to be rid of my devices. I'm just having fun. I'm just hanging out. But it's that third or fourth day I start to get that itch, just that little itch. And then, it really comes out, and not always in a positive way. It comes out in the negative sort of, almost like a detoxing way, where I actually had to detox a little bit. And then on the after side of that, my day 4, 5, 6, 7, that's when I really sink into a truly profound rest.
I love that. That's beautiful. So what are some, yeah, go ahead, please come.
Oh, I was just going to say, we used to call this in our company the tyranny of the inbox, right? Just to sort of explain this sort of how your life ends up being when you really race to the bottom, when, when you're...
It sounds like a price war, right?
Oh yeah, it's happening. But here's the funny, we've modified it now. The tyranny of the inboxes, right? Because now you don't just have one bit inbox. You've got your LinkedIn inbox, you've got your Facebook inbox, you've got your email inbox, you've got all the whatever different phone app you have has its own little inboxes.
Project management tools,
really
CRM tools.
Totally. You're not really allowed to drop any of these, even though Facebook, for example, we do a lot of business out of Facebook. And Facebook has terrible tools for catching and processing inboxes. Meaning if something gets buried like, 100 down, there's no real way to sort of like pull that back out, right? But we have to deal with it. That's yet another expectations that's been layered onto this. And so the tyranny of the inboxes really becomes this kind of place where it's like, well, I was paranoid enough thinking, well, what's in my inbox? Now I'm paranoid thinking, well, I cleared out one inbox. What's in the other 5? And how far back do I have to go? And so, especially for professionals, again, in sales, IT, and recruiting, this can become, I think, a life that most people would say this is not worth living. Right? Not like I want to go jump off a bridge, but just I want to do something different. I want to get out of here. I've had incredibly talented people in the sales profession say, well, I want out, even though they're doing great in their money, they're doing great, in every other respect, but they just say, I can't handle this. I can't handle the tyranny of the inboxes. So I'd love, with you just to sort of bat around a couple of what I think are some really, really simplistic and yet super powerful solutions. Does that sound cool?
Absolutely, man. You stole the question right out of my mouth, so go for it, please.
Yeah. The number one thing I think, and we can go as far down the rabbit hole as a person wants to go here, but let's just start really at the top. You got to have a communication policy. And this is something that's really interesting. So let's just sort of sit with this concept of a communication policy. What is a communication policy? It's not a PDF. It's not a one-pager. That's just the form that it takes. It's you standing in front of the world and saying, here's how you get to communicate with me to get the best output. It's you making a stand and saying in front of the world to everybody, to your boss, to your employees, it doesn't really matter to you, even to your family. Here's how and when to communicate with me. And here's the catch, to create a win-win. Here's how to communicate with me. Write that down if you're listening here and you're the kind of person who's like, okay, that hit me. Here's how you can communicate with me to create a win-win. And here's why I add that part, a win-win, because so many communication policies are A, either unwritten, or B, if they are written, or if you wrote them out, they would be a win-loss, meaning you win and I lose.
Absolutely.
So you win because you can get me anytime when I'm sleeping, when I'm on vacation, you win and I lose. And so what I say is when I start with communication policies with my clients, I say, we do not even accept the concept of a win-lose or a lose-lose. We only look for communication policies that are win-wins.
Love that. Love that.
So, I mean, now I know probably a lot of people are thinking, okay, well, that sounds easy enough to do, but I'll use my own communication policy just as a stand-in, but there's as many communication policies as there are professionals, right? The funniest thing is what I did is I'm a coach. And I'm coaching people who are dealing with some pretty sensitive stuff. And if I'm working with a company of 50 people and their system that I told them to integrate breaks, and now they've got 50 people who can't communicate, you better believe they want to get me right away, right? And yet at the same time, I don't want to be reachable right away for all of the other mundane things that could wait. And so what I decided to do is I said, 90% of email is going to wait for 7 days for me. So my inbox, my standard inbox, has a 7-day waiting period. So my communication policy looks pretty much like this: cut, bleeding, dying. Cut, bleeding, dying, right? If you're cut, if you have a nice little boo-boo, a little cut, great, put a Band-Aid on it and I'll get back to you within 7 days, at max 7 days. And so that just send it to Demir@lifehackbootcamp.com. Within 7 days, you will get a response. Now, if it's more important than that, if you're bleeding, then send me an email, but in the subject line, I want you to put the word urgent. Just so I know, if you put the word urgent in the subject line, it will immediately I have a little program in the background, a little like intelligence that will send it to a completely different inbox and you will get a response within 48 hours. And then there's dying. And if you're dying, if this is absolutely critical, then you have two choices. Number one, you can just call me directly on my phone. And number two, you can send me an email with the word emergency in the title. But let me just take a pause here, Chris. Do you know how stupid you feel when you're putting the word emergency in the title of an inbox? If it's not actually emergency, and you're writing the word emergency. So for example, emergency, I can't find the dog food. When you write that sentence, you feel as stupid as that sentence sounds. And I can tell you that itself is a deterrent. So when somebody's writing emergency and then they realize when they're writing the email that it's not an emergency, they will just delete emergency out of the title and they will take care of it themselves. And yet I haven't done anything. I haven't said, Chris, I haven't judged the validity of your email.
Right.
I haven't said you have self-judged, you have slotted your email into one of three categories that are very easy, cut, bleeding to die. This, my friends, is a communication policy, because what it does for me is it creates a win for me and it creates a win for you. You have a path where you can reach me right now. You have a path where you can reach me within 48 hours, and you have a path where you can reach me within a week. And so now you get the feeling of like, you know what, this isn't super important for Demir. I'm just going to toss it over to Demir at lifehackbootcamp.com. And I know that this will land in his sort of 7-day inbox, and he'll process it in due time. And I don't feel bad because I know that it's landing in the right inbox for Demir. So I'll just pause here. How's this landing with you?
It's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. I love the self-regulating aspect of urgent and emergency, and the person qualifying it on their own. It's a beautiful accountability tool. If you don't have that simple little tool, people will justify it in the way that they feel when they have to put it. I just told somebody this the other day. It's almost like our brains will play tricks on us in justification. The second we have to bring in another human being, they're like, all right, I guess I can't get this done. I'll just let it go. Because like when you try to lie or try to justify, your brain can convince you on your own when you're in isolation. But once you get involved with another human, that justification, that ego is like, all right, I guess we're not going to be able to pull this off. I'll just let it go. And it allows you to push through that piece.
Absolutely. I mean, I think what's so beautiful about something like this is people tend to think about email as very binary and recent to past, meaning it's binary. You either send an email or you don't send an email. It's very binary. I either sent it or I didn't send it. I either asked you something or I didn't. And it's very much just going to show up in your inbox as the most recent, right? So there's no other criteria by which you can filter. There's no nuance. And so by creating a communication policy, it gives you the opportunity to create gradations, whereas before it was just black and white.
The expectations are very clear, right? That's another beautiful aspect. Well, if they expect this of me, how can I change? Well, you can change their expectations by telling them how you communicate best. Yeah, I love that.
And I just want to jump in here really quick and talk about Facebook Messenger, right? So what I like to do with Facebook Messenger is, although I have sort of come to accept that we do so much good business through it, that it's going to be part of my life. What I've started to do is I've started to see Facebook Messenger as a conversation starter. And when the conversation is now started between me and you, and we've got a conversation going, it's time to move the details and the project management and the task over to either email, or I prefer something like Asana, something like a task management system where we can actually execute together, right? And so when what'll happen is, if somebody comes to me and says, hey, Demir, how's it going, buddy? How you doing? Perfect for Facebook. That's exactly what Facebook's meant for. Demir, how you doing? How you feeling today? Perfect. Great. The second that conversation goes, hey, by the way, I was just thinking, I need that X, Y, and Z from you. And can you give me A, B, and C? The first thing I do, nip it right in the bud, is I say, no problem. Got that right for you. But can you send this to my email so I can process this and not lose track of it? That simple sentence, hey, no problem. Not pushing back, not saying no, just no problem. Can you send this to my inbox, Demir at lifehackbootcamp.com, so I can make sure not to lose track of this for you and put it into my system, right? And people say, I've never had one person get hurt or sensitive on me. Oh, yeah, sorry. If anything, they apologize. They know inherently this is a bad place for them to be sending requests. And so for you to just remind them, they can just copy what they wrote, put it right into an email and send it right to you so that you can process it in the standard way.
I love it. It really, I mean, I'm just feeling it from the other perspective of the people who are communicating with you, giving them even the opportunity to, I mean, they're fulfilled. They know that they're getting a win by communicating with you in the way that they know is best for you. They get that win for themselves, which is a really cool piece of
it. I love it. And I was going to see if I could actually, now I didn't realize we were going to have video here. So I was going to see if I could actually show you.
Go for it, man.
I think I have it in front of me. I was hoping that it would just be right up in front of me,
okay.
But it's basically one page. It's one page, right? And so, and when I create communication policies for people who are really high up at organizations with 500 people underneath them, it's still one page.
Let's talk about taking this to a webinar in the future to our audience here. I think that might be the take. Like, I think that's the next place to really, I mean, let's continue this on a high level and then really get in the application of this to our audience here in a couple months. I think that'd be a great.
So then let me back off in the detail and just leave it with sort of the high level, which is you deserve to have a communication policy where you win and your clients win, where you educate your clients quickly, not slowly, quickly. You educate your clients how they can leverage you in the most effective way possible so that they can get certainty. What they're looking for is certainty. And when you have a communication policy that gives them certainty and gives you peace of mind, you are not better off and your client is worse off. You guys are both better off.
I love that. I really do. And you're right. It is certainty. The certainty that they get without the communication policy in effect is that, oh, I'm going to get the message and he's going to see it. The certainty is you receiving the message. And so until they get the reply, until they get the read receipt, until they get whatever, they don't feel certain. But giving them this process that they know, oh no, this is where and how he communicates, they have that certainty up front.
What you can do once you have a communication policy, and we're not going to get into this right now, but I'll just sort of preview it a little bit, is you can actually start to build multiple inboxes with assistance. I have actually 2 people in my organization who pre-screen my inbox, right? One is what I call a switchboard operator, right? All she does is just sort of look for emails that don't even belong in my inbox. They belong with another team member. So all she does is switchboard operate, clear out, notifications and spam and everything. She's just getting that. The second person is my assistant, who's actually already trained to answer probably 50 to 60% of the questions that come in, right? And then the third person, it's sort of like this drip. So even inside of your email, just a preview out there, a lot of people say, man, my email inbox is killing me. And man, if I could just outsource that, but boy, I never could. And what you can really start thinking about is instead of it, again, thinking in this binary thinking is killing us, the idea that it's either all you processing your inbox or none of you, going through this concept of like filtration systems where it's layer 1 gets filtered out, layer 2 gets filtered out, and the only thing you're seeing is layer 3. I get like 200 emails a day, and really I process about 20 because the rest have been filtered out before they even get to me.
I love it. Man, Damir, this is some good stuff. A lot of valuable pieces here too. And I can just picture myself so many times getting an email, getting a message, and just being so consumed by that email or message that it throws my complete day or plan or outcomes off track. And then I end up rolling into the next call. I'm like, oh man, I didn't even get done what I had planned to get done because I got done what they wanted me, or whatever email came in wanted me to get done. So I already see a ton of value in this. And I'm honestly already getting ready to put into my communication policy. Like I'm getting ready to send it out. Now it's got to get the courage to send it out to my team, right?
No, I love it. Make your top clients and your team stakeholders in this. Like, hey, let's create this win-win. What do you need from me? How can we create this in a way that wins for you? And I'll warn you one more thing. Just if you're going to go out and you're going to do this, I'll make one warning. This is what Tim Ferriss said in the 4-Hour Workweek. Okay. He said, people create freedom in their life and they think that's the thing that they want the most. And then they feel all of that free time and freedom, and it freaks them out. And they have a panic attack because they've just become used to that. So just know that one problem is getting the email away from you and creating a rational communication process. Another problem that you really have to acknowledge is, I've been so tied to this for so long. Can I operate without it? What kind of withdrawals do I need to go? And how would my life look like if I wasn't constantly switching over into my inbox, if I wasn't working with my inbox open constantly, if I wasn't constantly flipping this open and grabbing it? So just recognize, yes, part of it is creating a communication policy and a rational workflow, but a big part of it is also letting go.
Habitualizing this thing, right? Getting through from that inception of this is an awesome idea to the deception and resistance that happens on the daily basis when I can't stop staring at my phone, right?
Totally.
Oh, awesome. Damir, this has been great, man. I really appreciate it. You gave our audience some awesome tips and some guidance here. And I'm really looking forward to taking this thing to the next level and creating a webinar for our awesome NASB audience as well. So we're going to follow up and talk about that. I also got to know one more thing before we go.
Hey, man.
Where can our audience follow you? Where can they find you? Where's all this stuff?
Where's home for us?
Yes.
So home for us online is our website, lifehackbootcamp.com, Lifehack Bootcamp. And we have programs ranging from $37 all the way up to $50,000 where we fly in and we train entire companies, right? So we've got something for everybody there. I did want to offer something to this audience just for today. If you were interested in what we get started with and the work that we do, we actually have a little bit of a link. I can send it over to you so that you can put it in the show notes. But it's pages.lifehackbootcamp.com/morning routine. It's actually a wildly popular morning routine lead magnet that we actually put out there for free. It's a really cool training that's really about how to actually make morning routines finally work for you. It's just something that I've seen that people love to have in their back pocket. And we've heard people time and again saying, like, Damir, Carrie, thank you for helping me finally get my morning routine up on its feet. So if that sounds like something that's interesting, then go ahead and grab that. And I'll send you the link and you can put it in the show notes.
Awesome. We'll definitely get that link from you and make sure what's included for our audience. This is great. And I'll tell you, man, taking over my mornings has been one of the most amazing life hacks I have ever had. I ran nightclubs for a while in Miami. I was in the events industry. So I spent a lot of time, in that opposite end of the, we'll close at 5 a.m. in Miami, so that's a whole other world. And so I would be up really, really early in the morning and then, the whole different schedule. So I was always a night person. So reversing that, saying I'm a night person or I'm a morning person, it was a very difficult thing to shift that identity. But once I started to get a couple of those mornings going, I started to realize the time, the efficiency, the way my brain operated at such a higher level. And the fact that nobody was calling me at that time, that there wasn't as many distractions. It was just, it's been a huge, huge piece of my productivity for the last 6 to 8 months.
Well, awesome. I mean, I feel like we could just keep going forever, but I know. But let's crack off some of these other subjects and we'll get them in the future.
Perfect. Absolutely, man. I love it. So you know where to find him. He's awesome. Damir and Carrie, check them out at Life Hack Bootcamp. That is our Leads to Growth podcast, y'all. Don't forget to go to iTunes, like, comment, and share, and subscribe today. We've got some awesome guests coming out the rest of this year. We've got some amazing guests that we've just launched already. I mean, some amazing podcasts out there, so go check the backlog. But we've got some great stuff coming up with Damir too, and we'll let you all know about that real soon. Thanks again, Damir. Have a great day.
Man, thank you.
For listening. Cheers.